everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and welcome to another collection stream. It is part 5 of my geeky collections overall, and just the second part of my, I'm sure, very long ongoing series of comic collection videos. Everybody got that straight? We're doing lots of different collections, but it's going to be more comics than anything because I've got boxes and boxes of them, and we only got through half a box last time. So we'll see if we can get into at least box 2 tonight. I'm going to do the same thing I did last week, though, and start with some stuff that's not filed. You know, I thought about going ahead and taking the time to get everything like more in order and filed that's not filed right now, and I decided that it would add to the variety of this if I actually didn't do that, and I just showed you guys the whole collection in the state it's in right now. It's in less disarray than it was a couple of years ago. I had a project, I don't know, it feels more recent than it is actually, but I had a project I was working on just after the twins were born, so I guess this has been a couple, 2.5 years now, where I was filing things that were in, random stacks and boxes that I bought out from collections. I was bagging and boarding things that I didn't have bagged and boarded. I probably had, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 boxes worth of stuff that I bought in collections that weren't in bags. And so I had to buy a bunch of bags and boards and get rolling on that. And I still have a little bit left to do with that, but most of it is bagged and boarded. I even got dividers and labeled them all, but I haven't got them all in the boxes yet. So this will hopefully be an incentive for me, motivate me to get the rest of that project done. But full disclosure, in all honesty, I've really kind of put the comics to the side, and it hasn't been as big of a hobby for me. In the last few years, I've gotten a lot more into tabletop gaming, as I've talked about a lot, and I'll show you guys eventually the stuff that I've been doing with that. So that's where more of my collection dollars have been going, but I've kept my collection. I still love this stuff. Whenever I do go into a comic shop, I can't help but get a few things, and I still gap fill here and there, and I can see myself eventually pouring my heart and soul back into this again, especially, if I ever lose interest in the tabletop stuff I've been doing. But you have to kind of pick and choose sometimes. Your interests change a little bit as you get older, or I should say, because my interest hasn't changed with this, but my interest in news certainly has. And so, I don't know, I guess I don't have to explain myself to you guys, but it is kind of weird going through. I've been a little bit, I don't want to say melancholy about this, but it's been a little bit bittersweet getting started on this, because there's a part of me, like, going down memory lane that really misses going to the comic shop every Wednesday and getting my pulls and getting home and not being able to wait to read everything. And things have changed, times have changed. Like I talked about last time, I read a lot more in digital now. When I do read new, I have lost interest in the continuity of the big two, and I really have not found those things that just make me, where I cannot help but look at what's going on right now, get immersed in it again, and that's okay too. It's honestly been more fun for me when I have been gap filling and buying comics again, to go back to Silver and Bronze Age stuff. And we are in a place with the market now where a lot of the things that I used to collect more inexpensively have gotten more expensive. It's not in the same state that video games are, certainly, and it's leveled off a little bit. Around COVID, certain eras, certain types of comics really kind of skyrocketed, and that has leveled off. But there's a lot of 90s stuff that I used to collect that wasn't worth anything that has all of a sudden jumped up, which is really weird. That reminds me, I need to make sure and bring up price charting again so that we can look up a few things here and there and see what some of this stuff is worth, just out of morbid curiosity. And like I said last time, it's not to brag about all these super valuable things I have, and a lot of this isn't necessarily super valuable, but just because I haven't looked it up in a long time, and it'll be interesting to see if we land on some things that are worth a lot more than I think they are, or have just changed a lot over, since the last time I looked at them, which for most of the stuff will be years or even decades. We had some surprises last time. We also had some surprises with things that I thought were valuable in Warrant, like Daredevil, what was it, 181, the Elektra One Lives, One Dies issue. I was really surprised by how not so valuable that ended up being, which is okay because I did not have as good of a shape of issue of that as I could have. I told that story last time. Anyway, let's see what kind of crowd we've got tonight. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Adam March is here. Braden is here. Thomas Lowe. Good to see you guys. So once again, going through my entire collection box by box. But first, we're going to start with stack of some things that I got more recently, and then there's some other random things in this stack that are not recent. I don't know why they're in this stack. Again, I'm not completely organized with some of this, but it'll give us kind of some potpourri. It'll be fun to go through. Oh, also before I get into this, I got a really great question, and let me look this up and see who the viewer was so I can give him credit for it. I was thinking about answering this tonight, and I decided not to risk making the show even a lot longer or not just get very far. So, but I wanted to mention this because I'm thinking about making it the main topic for the Captain Logan show on Wednesday, which, by the way, is going to start an hour later than usual this week. We're going to have to start at 8 instead of 7. But Angela Castaneda 529, what is your secret, Cap? How do you start a comic book collection? And I was like, I don't want to answer that here in the community tab. Let me answer that on the show tonight. And then I started thinking about it, and I have a lot to say about that. I can't give you one singular answer because it really depends on the kind of collection you want to build and what sorts of things you're interested in. He said, what's your secret? Which kind of suggests that he wants to amass a large collection like I have of specifically singles. But it's really going to depend on whether you want to buy trades, whether you're more of a reader than a collector, whether you want to get more rare and valuable things, if you're going more for quantity, if there are particular characters you really want to collect, if you want CGCs. And so I want to go through each of those different kinds of comic collections and give you my advice on where you might want to start and how you might want to start buying. So I don't want to do that all tonight because I could spend half an hour, 45 minutes on that, and I will probably do that on Wednesday. So I'll try to write out some notes and come in with a little bit of prepared suggestions for 5 or 6 or 7 different types of comic collecting. AMC, good to see you, man. Adam March, even if you don't have the same desire to collect comics, something like Not Spawn Year coming back would still be a good way to show off the collection. Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I'm going to show it this way as well. Fitting that back into my schedule with the baby in the house is just impossible unless it was more or less all I was doing. And there wasn't quite enough interest in it to justify the daily off-the-cuff videos, which in some ways are harder to make than these streams, where once I've said this before, but once I start the stream, I'm here, I'm stuck with you. I've got to finish the thing for better or worse. If I flub up, I can't start over. And I have always been too much of a perfectionist when it comes to pre-recorded videos. So in some ways I had to, I don't know, for lack of a better way of putting it, I had to force myself to do this a lazier way to make sure that content actually comes out. And I'm finding that there's as much or more interest in doing this collection stuff and just showing you guys the whole collection as there was in that. And that's not to say that I don't want to do some things in that format. And I really would love to go back and finish that show and do a full 365. It's just right now it's really not in the cards. Also with making the movie and all of that. So I hate that I didn't do it in the year like I was trying to do. I also said from the beginning I didn't know if I could pull it off, but never say never. It's possible that I'll get back to that for the few of you guys that really liked it, and I appreciate the support and the interest. But anyway, and I want to do more comic reviews in general. Austin and I are working to make more of that happen for you, but Anyway, let's go ahead and get into this. So I'm going to show you a few things that if you saw the Branson stream that Jason and I did a couple months ago, you will have seen some of this. So I will blow through it pretty quickly because I have talked about this before. But because I'm being a completionist with my comic collection, I do have to show it to you. So when I was at, well, the Branson stream, and also I think I did a post Planet Comic-Con stream. Maybe I did this on the Captain Logan show. I can't remember. So some of the stuff you might have seen between a couple of streams. Not all of you guys would have looked at that stuff. I don't expect people to consume every single hour of the hours and hours that we broadcast here. So anyway, I got a couple of sketch covers because I like to get artists at conventions to draw sketches for me, and so I like to pile these up and then bring them with me. These I actually got, now that I'm looking at this, a year or two ago at Mayhem in Iowa, which is one of the stores that was featured in the Midwestern panels 10 years ago now. It's the 10th anniversary of that movie, and actually Brandon and I have been kicking around doing a commentary for that movie. Hopefully we can get together and make that happen sometime this year. But anyway, so I got a Star Trek sketch cover and a Spawn sketch cover. This was Star Trek #1 when they did the relaunch. I'm pretty sure this is the kind of crazy mix of a lot of different Star Trek characters from different shows that has some new Trek stuff mixed in, but more or less is all about the kind of Berman Braga era from before that. And it's pretty fanficky, but I enjoy it as a guilty pleasure. And then this is Spawn 329, and I have not kept up with Spawn at all, so I couldn't begin to tell you what's in this issue. But I'm holding those back to maybe take to a con and have somebody draw something cool on them. And you'll see a really cool sketch cover in here in a little bit that, again, I have shown off once before that I got at Planet Comic-Con this year. But beyond that, this is some stuff I got in Branson. Like I said last week, I am a lot more pick and choosy now with the singles I buy, and I don't feel the need to collect everything because I can read anything I want to in digital. I have a lot of access that way. So I just buy covers I really like. Sometimes I'll get a #1 for a series that I know I'm going to want to read, and I just kind of collect a little bit more a la carte potpourri now. So this is Power Rangers 119, and I've been trying to get all of these zombie covers whenever I find them. I'm just getting these out in the wild when I happen to run into one, and this is a really cool Tommy Green Ranger one. And then Batman 89 Echoes #1. I haven't started reading this yet, and sometime soon on the Comic Vault I will finally review the first miniseries with Austin. I keep threatening to do that. The next thing on my pick with that show won't be that, but I might pick it the time after that. And we've been wanting to do one of those the last couple of weeks, and we just haven't been able to get to it. I should also mention, this all is dating this real hard, but I should also mention that next week I'm going to be off from regular content, but I'll try to do a couple of other fun streams, probably another one of these collection videos, maybe a watch party or something, but Austin's going to be out of town and won't be able to do regular shows with me. Jason and I might have a Captain Logan show. I haven't decided yet, but we're also going to be gearing up for a big full weekend film shoot for the Superhero Rewind movie that's going to be on location 45 minutes from here. So I've got to spend a lot of time on that. So I'm not going to have time to prepare stuff, but I still might be able to sit down before I go to bed for an hour or two and hang out with you guys doing something. Batman 89 Echoes #2. I got this one because it's the kind of crazy Batgirl suit. You just don't get more 90s than that, and the 89 Jack Nicholson Joker-inspired Harley Quinn. This was one of the earliest images that we had from this series, and I wanted to make sure and get that cover. I may buy all of those, I'm not sure yet. Then I've got Kneel Before Zod #1, because I saw this at a store and I was really curious about it, and then I started reading it in digital that night when I was in Branson, and I really enjoyed what I read of it. I'm 6 issues in. I think more have probably come out since then, and it started to get kind of predictable, and I wasn't liking it as well, but it's still worth a read. I want to review this at some point as well, and so I went ahead and went back to that store and bought this. Here is another Power Rangers cover. This isn't one of the zombie ones, but it just looks cool. This is Power Rangers 117 with White Ranger fighting the body of Zordon. It's hard to explain that whole thing, but he's called the Vessel, and he's being controlled by Rita Repulsa and is kind of developing his own personality. It's a really interesting kind of identity story. I need to catch up on that series. I'm a few behind. And that is finally ending soon, and nobody knows yet if Boom is going to relaunch in that same continuity or do a full-on reboot. Let me turn up my gain here a little bit. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. But they have said that they are definitely continuing Power Rangers, and it will be the only Power Rangers thing going on because as I've been talking about on the channel a lot lately. Pardon me. I'm sorry. I'm really parched. I was cleaning out my garage yesterday, and ever since then I felt like I like ate a bunch of sawdust, and it's just been a little bit difficult to talk. So I might have to drink a little bit more, not like alcohol, but just water through the stream. Hi, John. Good to see you, man. But as I've been talking about with Power Rangers lately, it looks like we're not going to have anything TV anytime soon, if ever, as Hasbro's got it. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. Then I bought the Gotham by Gaslight Kryptonian Age #1, just because it's a cool cover, and the premise doesn't really do anything for me. I don't know when I'll get around to reading this, but I just like this cover a lot, so I went ahead and bought that. This is not a comic, so I won't show you that. Here is... I mentioned this in another show, but this is a Jim Lee variant for Spawn Batman, the new one, and I read part of this and just absolutely loathed it. Haven't even finished this issue because it's terrible. But this is a wonderful cover, and I had to have that, so it'll be fun to try to display somewhere. And I've talked about this too, but I really want to find a way in the bunker here to display a lot more comics on the walls. It'd be really cool if I could find a way to get 500 or 1,000 of them out and just move them in and out all the time. Hey, look, a super chat. Thank you very much, James Egan, $7.99 Australian. Do you have any omnibuses? What are some of your favorites? For me, it would be Ultimate Spider-Man, New X-Men, and JLA Grant Morrison's omnibus. So it's going to be embarrassing for some of you guys when I get to my trade collection, and I will do a stream on that. I don't know that it'll take more than one stream to go through all of them. Maybe two. I mean, I've got them in a couple places. I've got some stuff, but I'm not primarily a trade collector, so I don't really own any omnibuses. I don't like to read that way. Like, a good, manageable hardcover, sure, or even a trade paperback, but when you get the tomes, I just don't really enjoy reading that way when they're real super heavy and I've got to really bend over a table and I can't put it in my lap, in order to read it. That's not my preferred way to read. And the first of those that I ever read cover to cover was the Walt Simonson Thor omnibus, which one of our viewers, and I forget his name now, this has been a lot of years, this has probably been almost a decade at this point, but sent me in the mail and asked me to send him back, and I did that. And Dan and I reviewed the whole thing together, and it was really cool to have it all there together like that, but man, it was just huge and heavy and bulky and unwieldy, and I just don't love to read that way. So they look awesome on a shelf, but it's just not my preferred way to read or collect. And as I've talked about a lot before, especially now that I can access almost anything in digital. With singles, it's all about the collecting and really not about the reading. It used to be both for me, where that was my preferred way to read also. And now I get a little bit more paranoid about messing up spines and ripping stuff and the kids getting their hands on it. And I didn't worry about that as much when it was the only way to read them. I would just go, well, occasionally you're going to have a casualty. What are you going to do? And now with digital access, I feel like I can afford to be a lot more careful with my stuff. So I've shown this a million times, but this is a cool sketch cover that I got at Planet Comic Con a few years ago with Frank Gorshin's Riddler on a Batman 66 issue. My lighting is not set up great for this tonight, and I completely forgot that I lit this differently the last time I did this, so I will try to remember to do that again next time. Apologies, but hopefully you guys will be able to see everything okay. Maybe if I hold it back a little bit further. Yeah, there you go. You can see the Gorshin headshot there a little bit better. And then this is one of my prized possessions now that I got again at Planet Comic Con just a few months ago. I met Dan Reba, one of the major producers and writers, huge contributions to Batman the Animated Series. And he and a couple of the other guys that worked on that show were doing a panel that I saw that was wonderful and had a table there. And he was doing sketch covers, and it was pricey, but it was worth it. This is the most I've ever spent on a sketch cover. I only have a few of these, and it's maybe the most I've ever spent on a single comic, now that I'm thinking about it, just to be able to get the sketch on it. But I asked him if he had ever drawn Adam West Batman, and he told me he didn't think that he had. And so that's what I had him do. So I own, likely, the only, and of course, this is a sketch cover, so this is not a print. There are not more of these. The novelty for having this, and the reason that, especially if it's somebody well-known whose artwork is worth anything, and this is definitely worth something now. I don't know if it would technically be worth what I paid for it, but this would go for a decent amount of money. Because of who it is, it just costs a lot more to get because it's the only one of its kind. He drew directly on this, in case you've never gotten a sketch cover. And so it was just what I was hoping for. It's Dan Reba drawing Adam West Batman in a very similar style to Batman Animated Series. So if that version had ever shown up in that show, I would imagine that's more or less what it would look like. His Batarang is a little small, but other than that, it's really great. Let me go through these a little bit quicker. We got to get into this box. How long have I been talking so far? Yeah, let's truck through this. I've talked about this stuff before. Space Ghost #1 from Dynamite, which came out this year. I haven't read this yet, but I looked at the interior art and it looks great. I want to read this all together probably. And again, I'd like to review it. Working in comic reviews is not the easiest thing right now, but I want to do that. And then here is another zombie cover from Power Rangers during Darkest Hour. This is from 117 with Yellow Ranger. And I'm hoping to get one for every Ranger color if I can. And then I have a few things here that I think were just stacked up from not Spawn Year maybe. And oh, you know what? No, this is here because this is going to give maybe something away a little bit. This is actually here because of a film shoot from a couple of months ago for the Superhero Rewind movie. So a little tease for that. I used Superman 75, The Death of Superman, in a scene in my movie. For some reason. I won't explain why, but that's why it's sitting here in this pile right now. And I think I also have a black bag edition. So when we get to the S's, when I'm like 115 years old, we'll see that again probably. And then Batman 465, one of my favorite covers. Who drew this? I think this is a Breyfogle cover. It is Breyfogle in interiors, so probably so. Superman 79 during Reign of the Supermen. One of the coolest covers from that arc. Again, apologies for a little bit of glare here. I could not begin to tell you why Brightest Day 22 is out of the box it goes in. So when we get to the B's, we'll have to skip Brightest Day 20. I have no idea why. But there's the Anti-Monitor. Because, it was a big crisis kind of thing. Look at another Power Rangers zombie cover. This is the coolest one. Look at this. Look at zombie Pink Ranger doing her gymnastics. Even as a zombie, she's super flexible. That's such a cool pose. And then I think this is out just because I had an X-Men display over here and I pulled this out of it and put something else there for some reason. But here is one of the many variant covers of Jim Lee's X-Men #1. I have at least 4 or 5 of them. And I forgot there was one with Wolverine in his brown suit, but there it is. Let's see what folks are saying in the comments here before we get back into box number 1. So there's a little fun variety stack for you. This is one of the few times I can say it pays to be disorganized. Again, I am mostly organized with this collection, but there's a couple boxes of stuff that I just haven't gotten around to filing, and then I've got a bag and board and that kind of thing. Bear with me a second as I just move stuff around here. We'll put this in the background for set dressing. It'll look like we accomplished something. Adam Arts, drink water. Yeah, good idea. Bear with me just a second here, guys. I probably sound sick. I feel fine, except I'm just really parched and a little stopped up right now. Anyway, give me a second. Braden says he's going to watch this later. Thanks for being here for a minute, Braden. Good to see you, man. James Egan, also Batman by Paul Dini Omnibus. Yeah, that stuff is really cool. I do have... One of the thickest things I have, and I'll show you this when we get there later on. I don't know if I'll do the trades in the middle of this. I probably will. But I do have the first... I don't think it's called an omnibus, but I have the first giant Death of Superman hardcover that had a lot of it, but was missing stuff. So there's a newer hardcover that, just like Nightfall, added back everything that first one curiously left out. But I like the cover of the old one better, and I also like the newsprint pages because it's not in the newer glossy pages. It's the old kind of paper that they printed those on. And I just think the art in that stuff looks better on that kind of paper. And, you know, it adds to the nostalgia for me because that's how I read it when I was a kid. So, all right, here we go. We're back to the A's, folks. And we begin with Marvel's Angela, which I was collecting as this stuff was coming out. And I don't know if she's had any more titles since then, as I've just stopped feeling the need to collect everything that I might read. But it's funny, when I sold all my Spawn stuff, which I am reeling from a little bit. It's been a lot of years now, too, but every time I think about it, I'm like, I kind of wish I hadn't done that. That is a thing that I'm collecting, though, in trade now. Just to have it. Just to say that I still have it in some way. But anyway, I did go ahead and start collecting Marvel's Angela because I've just always loved that design that Neil Gaiman gave her. And she's a different character in Marvel, but I still found her interesting enough. And she had kind of a cool, she had a cool worldview about bargaining, about anything that you take, you have to give something for. And so her whole life is built on this bartering system, which I thought was a kind of an interesting idea. And so anyway, we have Angela, Asgard's assassin, and I'm going to have every issue of these. These are just 4 6-issue miniseries. So there's number 1. Here's number 2. These kind of sketchy covers. I like the colors with these. The orange with the hair really pops. These look really cool. Hopefully you guys can see these okay. I guess if I hold it right like this in front of my face, you guys can see the stuff all right. I'm missing 3 for some reason. Maybe it's out of the box. Maybe I never bought it. I'm not sure. Here's Angela reflected off a knife here. Some of this I've read, some of it I haven't. And I think... Actually... Oh, I see what happened here. Okay. So I don't know if this is the order that these originally came out in. I don't even remember that. It's been so many years now. But there's number 5. And then here's number 6. That's a cool dynamic cover. She's coming at you. She's going to get you. Watch out. She's very stoic and not especially feeling. So, you don't want that. You don't want her after you. She's from the angel realm. And then we have 1602, Witch Hunter Angela, which was a choice, but this was during Secret Wars back around 16. And so all of the big events, or even smaller events you've ever heard of in Marvel at that time, got new miniseries for Battle World, where they were kind of reimagined. And so this is what we did with 1602. Okay. I'm pretty sure I read this back in the day. I don't remember very much about it at all. How long was this? It was also just 4. I think all of these spin-off minis from Secret Wars were like 4 issues. And then we have Angela, Queen of Hell. Yeah, she took over for Hela, and I don't know if this was coming out around the same. I think this was even before Ragnarok. So it's kind of interesting that Angela was built into the Hela character in Ragnarok a little bit. If you go read the Angela stuff in Marvel with her first appearance in Guardians, and you know Ragnarok, you'll realize that some of the lore and background they gave for Hela actually came more from Angela. So yeah, these covers are a lot like that other miniseries. They're pretty gothic looking and sketchy, although these look a little bit more painted, which is cool. I like that pained expression on Angela's face there. And then it looks like here she's going to have to deal with, I don't know, Kratos, the god of war. Not really, though. And that looks like actual Hela in the background. So I don't know if they have a big battle for her to get her kingdom back. Oh, this was more than a miniseries. I guess this was a monthly. Did I just stop at 7? Because this was around the time I quit buying new, I think. So I wonder how long this went. There was a time where I would... Oh, and that's Lady Thor that she's fighting there. And then here's issue 7, and that's where I quit with it. There was a time where if I owned consecutive issues like that of a series, I would feel almost duty-bound to buy the rest of it, even if I didn't like it, or it changed artists and writers, and I just don't have that anymore. I don't have the completionist thing as much. I mean, it does depend on the runs, but for newer stuff, I especially don't have that. I have things further back that I've got gaps here and there that I am continually gap filling them. Okay, so you remember last time when I said that I have characters that I don't collect, but then I tend to have an issue that represents them for no reason. So I don't know how I ended up with this. I have a number 1 Ant-Man. This is Nick Spencer from... I don't know if this was during Marvel Now or if this is... I think this is a bit after that. But anyway, I think maybe what happened was I got this to review it for some reason. I don't know. I had a arrangement with a comic shop, Elite, which is also in the documentary, for a long time, where I would borrow issues that I didn't want to buy so that I could review more things. And then in exchange, I advertised for them on the channel. I did that with a couple of different comic shops over the years. And so that might have been one of those where I ended up with that because I borrowed it and forgot to take it back or something. So maybe I accidentally stole that. Apologies to William and Elite. I'm not sure, but I can't think of why else I would have wound up with that. Here is an Ant-Man annual. Once again, I don't know why I have that. Nobody panic. There's not going to be a bunch of that in here. It's not like I forgot to bring all the comics I borrowed back. I can't think of any other reason I would have that. And then here is a 90s Aquaman issue. This is number 1 from... I don't know, early 90s. I would have to look this up. By the way, we haven't looked up anything on price charting yet because I just don't imagine that any of what we've looked at right now is going to be very valuable. Although I will maybe look up a couple of these New 52 things just because I'm a little curious if some of these number 1s are kind of sought after. But yeah, nothing really of note yet. But I guess we'll start doing that with a little bit of things here. Let's see. Aquaman. Okay. This is going to be just fascinating, I am sure. I can't remember if I set this up so that you guys could see it last time. I think I did. Everybody bear with me for a minute. You're going to see a black screen while I get this set up so that you can see it. Okay, so again, these are graded prices. So if you got this graded, this is what it would be worth. So a 9.2, a near mint copy would be $17.20, and a very fine would be like $12, and mine probably falls in about that category. So that's like a $10 or $12 book. That's cool. And then I figure everything after this is probably worth quite a bit less than that. But I'll check just real quick. Is there a way to look at the rest of this series in here easily? It doesn't look like it. Because if I just click on Aquaman, it takes me to the original 60s series. But if you had an Aquaman #1 from 1962, that is somewhere between a $725 and $1,500 book. In case anybody is curious as to what the earliest Aquaman issue commands, that's what it is. Now you know. But yeah, I'll look up 2 here just out of morbid curiosity. Oh, wow, no, that's actually worth a little bit more than 1, or right around the same. Yeah, fascinating. Okay. So several of these could be $10 or $11 books. I'm going to do one more of those. Did I show you that? That's the cool trench cover. So this was one of the books I was really loving when New 52 was happening, and overall, I wasn't real impressed with the whole line. So the books I was liking, I was buying. And because I was a little bit frustrated that some of my favorite things weren't very good. So like a lot of people right then, because of the reboot nature of that, I was trying out stuff and buying things I never would have otherwise. So, and I don't think there is a New 52 series I own all of except for Batman. So I bought Aquaman up through 9, it looks like. And then I quit on that. But I was loving it at the start. And it's also possible that I was still liking it fine, but I was just making concessions so that I could buy something else. And then after that, these don't seem like they're worth very much. Or worth very much more than cover. But anyway, so we'll just go through these real quick. So there's Aquaman #3. We're going to be lucky if we get through this first box. This is going to be a, 100 issue, or I shouldn't say issue, entry series or something. Aquaman 4. And then there's 5. Buried Alive. Buried Alive. I'm missing 6 for some reason. Here's 7. It's always weird going back to things you did 10 years ago and just try, or more than that with this, and trying to understand where you were and why you did things. Aquaman 8. And there's number 9. And then I bought the Rebirth issue for some reason. I'm not an Aquaman guy. I don't know why I did that. Sorry, Dan. I'm not an Aquaman guy. Okay, then we're going to switch gears for a second and go to Armageddon 2001. And this was a special for Armageddon 2001. I don't own any more of this. And this is probably one of those issues that I got in a collection. I just like this era. And so kept a few things that I didn't think I could sell very readily. So I've talked about this before, and I'm going to try not to repeat myself too much with this series, but just to kind of recap something I said last time, because it's comics, so we got to have the recap page, because every collection video is going to be someone's first collection video, right? That's Stan Lee's logic anyway. So What I did when I was selling retail for myself is when I was on eBay, I would buy out collections and I could easily sell series if I had unbroken runs or quite a few issues of a series. But it was hard to sell single issues. You couldn't do a whole lot with them unless you wanted to make an eBay store and have a bazillion auctions up at once. And I didn't find that very useful for what I was doing, and I didn't have enough stuff on hand. So I kept a lot. So that's why I sold that way. But when I had a flea market booth, singles were better to have, or at least as good to have. If you had runs, you either had to sell them separately and risk breaking them up, or you had to put them all together in a bundle, and then you felt like you had to charge a little bit less because people were buying in bulk. So I actually did better with singles in the flea market booth. So if I got this while I was selling on eBay, I wouldn't have really been able to do much with it. I would have just hung on to it or sold it in like a bulk lot with something. So that's probably why I have that. Let's look that up real quick. Because why not? Armageddon 2001. I'm looking for that special. And it's listed just as number one and not as a special, which is interesting. But here it is, near mint. It would be worth $20. 9.8 would be 109. Mine is spine looks good. I'm not pulling this out of the shrink wrap, but I would say this is probably going to be a 7 or an 8. So that's a $12, $13 book. That's pretty cool. Let's see what folks are saying in the comments here. Thomas Lowe, so what happened to the copyright dispute with Angela these days? Well, she was sold. I mean, the copyright dispute was, as far as I understand, was resolved, and Neil Gaiman got the rights to that character back outright. So she became disconnected from Spawn. He could do anything he wanted with her as a singular character, and he sold her to Marvel. I think just kind of to get back at Todd McFarlane, because he wasn't going to do anything with her. Michael Simbati is a name I don't recognize. Hi there, welcome. Hi, Cap. Did you ever read Batman Broken City by Brian Azzarello? I don't think I got around to that. There's a lot of more recent stuff that, and sometimes I've read and reviewed so much stuff that sometimes I'm like, what's the title? What story does it go with? Am I remembering it right? But I think that's a somewhat more recent thing. Let me know if I'm remembering this right, because I don't keep up with current very well. That I have not gotten around to. And that out-of-continuity stuff is the stuff that I'm a lot more interested in. So I would like to review more of those things, and they've been requested somewhat frequently, which has been nice. Give me a second, guys. I was better off than this earlier today. Here is Archangel Phantom Wings. This would have been, I think, an early 90s thing. And I'll look that up real quick, just out of curiosity. Again, that's a random issue. I'm not sure exactly why it's in the collection. Oh, I got to be more specific than that, because this being price charting, it's not just about comics. So all of a sudden, a bunch of Magic cards came out. I'm looking for this Phantom Wings thing. And I think it's just going to be listed as Archangel. I don't know if I can find it fast enough. Oh, because a bunch of cards are coming up with this too. Weird. Okay, well, this is probably not worth a ton and not all that interesting, so I'm just going to move on. This is a free comic book day Arrow issue that had terrible art, but I was really into the show at the time, and of course, I reviewed all of that stuff for a very long time, so it was free. I also bought a couple Arrow comics, I think. Although I say that, they're not coming up right here. And then here is something much more recent. This is as Guardians of the Galaxy. I bought this because Angela's in it. So that's kind of interesting just because of the way the alphabet falls. We've got more Angela here, even though it's because of the AS and as Guardians. And again, this is right around when I stopped buying current, so I didn't get all of this. I probably only have 4 or 5 issues of this. Yeah, this was the last big event I bought. This was tied into Infinity Wars, which I remember next to nothing about. I think there was something with like a frozen stone Thanos or something. Next to nothing. And then, oh, we've got a zombie Thor fighting Angela. That's fun. Maybe at some point I'll actually read this stuff. And now she's dealing with the Nova Corps. She's on every cover, so I'm going to assume she's the leader of this team. Is she? She probably is. War of the Realms? Yeah, I didn't read any of that stuff. That is 7. Here's 8. Wow, I'm surprised I bought that many of these. I definitely didn't read any of them. Just had that on my pull for a while, and I kept pulling it. Okay. This is another Free Comic Book Day issue. We're going to see a lot of Free Comic Book Day through this, because when I was regularly affiliated with a comic shop and buying new comics, I always went to Free Comic Book Day. I always ended up with a lot of books. And then Vince would very often give me a bunch of Free Comic Book Day issues that he didn't care about, that he found that I didn't even run into. So I had, and I'm sure I might have filed some of this stuff. I'm not sure. I used to have a whole long box of nothing but Free Comic Book Day. I probably still have that. But this is a Free Comic Book Day preview for Avatar X. Anybody ever hear of Avatar X? Yeah, you probably haven't. This is in here, and I don't feel like I've ever heard of it either. But I remember this cover. I just never looked at it. This is a Grant Morrison thing that I wonder if anybody read. I wonder how many issues it got. Okay, now we're going to have to start looking stuff up. This is when we start getting into the juicier Silver Age stuff, folks. Now, I'm not a big Avengers guy, and I'm looking at this. I have a lot more of it than I thought I did because of some, again, probably collections I found, but also some of this might be stuff my dad found for me, because my dad runs a flea market and is still in the junk business. And I've said this before, but whenever he gets comics in that he thinks I'll have any interest in whatsoever, he calls me and I look up stuff in my database and we start gap filling. And if the prices are really good, and with my dad, he gives me good deals, they very often are, sometimes I'll pick up stuff that I don't necessarily collect a lot of, but is too cool not to have. And so I have a few Silver Age Avengers for that reason, and a lot more than I realized I did. Interesting. So, because I was going to say I'm a little embarrassed by how little Avengers I have. I'm just not a big Avengers guy. But I'm actually sitting here looking at this, and I have a lot more than I thought I did. I thought it was going to be like 3 or 4 issues. But it's more than that. Robert, we would also like to see your pod collection, Cap. Challenge accepted. And I assume you're joking, thinking I don't have a pod collection, but I in fact do, and I've been thinking about that, wondering when I'm going to work that in and go back through those. I won't have a lot to say about them. I'll just be like, look, everybody, pods. I mean, are we going to go through every single pog? I mean, probably not. I have more of that than you'd think I would, but I've got at least, I don't know, 4 or 5 sleeves of those, and then I have a cool, like, plastic display thing that's got Batman Nightfall pogs. Like, no, dude, I do. I've got pogs. I've got some really cool slammers, too. I just remembered this. I mean, we'll look at it later. But I have a Batman Forever slammer that is shaped like a question mark. I'll have to look at that, too. Wood Grain Beanie. Ugh, I wish I still had my pogs. Yeah, I'm glad I hung on to those. Michael Simbadi, looking for more street-level Batman stories. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Any recommendations? You mentioned Gotham Central. That's of course a great one. Besides the usual suspects, you know, stuff that you'll already no doubt have heard of, like Year One. I would I would say just look at particular eras that were much more like street level detective things than anything. So like you want to go back and read the Englehart stuff from the 70s and 80s. That would be a great place to start. And then trying to think, and then Alan Grant and those guys. Also in the late 80s, early 90s, were doing a lot of real gritty street level type Batman stories. Okay, now like I said, we get into Avengers. Now this is not in great shape. It's intact, and see, I like to build suspense by explaining a thing before I show you what it is. It's got a rip in the middle, so this is going to be of a poor grade. The condition on this is probably a 4 at the very best, but it's early and it's not falling apart, although it might have some tape on the side. So this probably isn't worth anything. But it's Avengers number 21. So that's pretty cool. That is a pretty old Avengers issue. I can't remember if I covered this on Not Spawny or not. I did an early Avengers there. But let's look this up. Avengers 21. And see if it wasn't taped and had a rip in the middle, what it would be worth. Apologies for my voice tonight, guys. Avengers 21, 1965. Okay, so like I said last time, when I was a kid, it was a kick to know that if it was in perfect shape, it was worth a lot of money, even if it's not actually worth that, the one that I have. So I would have been tickled by this. 9.2, let me show you guys this. A graded copy would be worth $350. A 6.0 would be worth $103. A 4.0 would be worth $53. So I could maybe get 20 for this if the right person came along, I guess, because it's not in great shape at all. But it's cool to have that. And then the next oldest Avengers issue I have is 38, and it's in much nicer shape. That's probably a 5 or 6. Yeah. Never mind. That's probably still a 4. That's probably actually a 4. But let's look that up. These earlier ones I'm going to have to keep taking a look at the price charting for. So everybody bear with me. We got to take our time with this stuff. We're going to be here forever, but you know what it is though, because we live in an age that's all about content. It's content. It's content, folks. Okay, a 9.2 would be worth $215, and a 6.0 would be worth $67. So it's probably a $40 or $50 comic. Again, if I were to get it graded, you wouldn't be able to command that much, of course, without it being graded. But that is pretty cool. And the colors look great on that cover. It does have that going for it. Now we're going to jump a little bit past that era. We've got a really cool cover with Beast of all people on it. This is Avengers. I guess Beast was on the team for a while, right? This is probably a late 70s issue. I love this cover. It's really pretty. I wonder who drew that. This is Avengers 143. I would have to look that up at a different website. But let's see what that one's worth. So I might not look up every single one of these now because this won't be as exciting. But this is probably, this is in good shape. This is a 7 or an 8. And again, the colors look really pretty. I wonder what I paid for this. Sorry, I'm just looking at this, trying to figure out who this guy is on the cover, because it says Kang, but that doesn't look like Kang. Is it a monster that Kang is, like, sending off after them? Can anybody shed any light on this? Like, how are they fighting Kang right here? But anyway, a 6.0 is worth 16 if it were graded, and an 8 is worth 25. So it's between there somewhere. And then we've got 185. Actually, I'll look this up because this might end up being a key or something. I'm not sure with Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch there. But that's a neat atmospheric cover there. The lightning and rainstorm. Avengers 185, 1979. And a 9.2 is worth 53, and an 8 is worth 32. And again, this is probably a 6 or a 7. So yeah, these are cool. So we've got, I don't know, $100, $200 worth sitting here with these old Avengers. 186. Said I wasn't going to look all of these up, but now I'm kind of curious. Looks like around the same range, a little bit more. And the grade on this one, the spine's not great, so this is probably like a 5. So worth a little less than 30. But yeah, these covers are great. I'm glad I've got a little bit of an Avengers collection now. You know, not a ton. Oh, I thought I had some things out of order. That's an annual back there that I'm looking at. Okay. And then this is going to be the last from this era. Then we're going to jump into the 90s. So Avengers 197. This feels almost like a throwback cover at that time. Because you had in, I guess the 70s did some of this, but you had these kind of more magazine-esque covers with especially Superman, but like everybody did some of these in like the 60s, where you'd have these kind of panels where it's like, oh, this thing's going to happen, and this other thing's going to happen, and here's all these different stories inside of your book. So it's kind of surreal to see that with an Avengers issue. Yeah, so 6.0, $13, 8.0, $22. So, we're getting a little bit later, and we don't have any keys here. So, nothing to write home about, but nothing to sneeze at either. And now we've got this. I remember these vividly. And I think I must have gotten these, because I feel like I've had these forever. Just back when I was buying comics a lot at flea markets when I was a kid. So I probably got this when I was, I don't know, 9 or 10. Avengers 360, with these, what do you even call these? These kind of raised, they're not holofoils, but they're like these kind of foil covers. It's funny, when I was a kid, I definitely fell in the trap with these, where the very kinds of gimmicks that these companies were doing that ultimately helped to lead to the downfall of the comics as we knew it during that period, the big crash in the 90s, were the things that kids were all the rage for. Just like with card collecting too, you wanted the really pretty like foil cards, and it seemed more special because you did something weird and unique to the covers. But to this day, I don't know, they're still kind of cool, even though I know it was ultimately a big problem for the industry. But some of that might just be nostalgia talking. So yeah, you get these weird raised covers where like, it doesn't even look like a drawing. Like, yeah, somebody drew that, but like, it's odd. Let's see if these are worth anything. They're probably not. 1993. Yeah, 14, 15 bucks. That's better than I would have expected. Okay, that's cool. See, all this stuff has gone up. There was a time where I would have been able to find that all day long for 3, 4 bucks or less. And it's going to get really surreal, like when we get into Spider-Man. Some of the stuff that cost me nothing when I was a kid that has gone up massively in value. There, like I'm thinking of, what is it? Is it Amazing? No, it's not Amazing, because I know it's a 300. I know that's the number, but I feel like Amazing would have passed that by then, or maybe it is Amazing 300. I can't remember. But anyway, there's an issue with again like a raised cover or a hologram cover. I think it's a hologram cover that's worth like $50 or $100 now. That I can't even believe is worth money now. But anyway, and then this is these are both 363. No, I'm sorry. That was 360. This is 363. This also has a cover like that. I'll show it to you in a second. But yeah, this one is silver instead of bronze. Look at that. So I guess they did a whole series of these. Because these are 3 issues apart. So there were probably a whole bunch like this in a row. And it's worth somewhere between 11 and $20. Cool. Okay, moving right along. I'm not going to look this up. This is a tie-in to Onslaught. It's not going to be worth anything. But Avengers 402. I can't believe we're still in Avengers. Not just because we haven't even gotten anywhere close to Out of the A's yet, but because I didn't know I had this much Avengers. And then here pretty soon we'll get into more modern Avengers. We can blow through that stuff. Here is Avengers Annual number 8. Also would be excited because of the Doctor Strange in one of the circles there. But that's a cool Thor cover. Let's see what that's worth real quick. Avengers Annual number 8. I didn't look this up right. $1978. Oh, that's not bad. 18 if it was a 6.0 and 28 if it was an 8.0. It's probably, there's a bit of a crease in the middle, so it's probably more like a 4 or a 6, so, or a 4 or 5. So this is probably worth $5, but again, it's cool if it was in better shape. That it would be worth more. Let's see how we're doing for time here. We've been at this about an hour. And we've got a nice crowd. Thanks for being here, guys. There's Teddy. Good to see you. Wood Grain Beanie. I love gimmick covers. Yeah, it's a guilty pleasure for me. Because I know it was a problem back then. I know it was one of the big things that oversaturated the market. But when you're a kid, that stuff feels really cool and special. We did way too much of it, but some of them were still really fun to look at. You like what you like, even when it's a problem. Avengers number 1 from 1996. So this is the last Avengers thing before we get into more modern stuff. I'm going to try to finish this box out. I am starting to feel a little funky. I'm not going to lie. I'm fading a little bit. I don't know if I'll get through even this first box. I pulled the other one out. I thought we were going to get to it. I might just take a break here in a second and see if I can get a second win and come back for a little bit. Because I was hoping to go at least an hour and a half tonight. Okay, so now we get into some of the stuff that I bought. I'm not sure why I got into Avengers, because I was never an Avengers guy. Keep in mind that, like I said before, when I got into new comics again, this was circa 2011, it wasn't just about collecting. It was, I wanted to keep up, I wanted to learn what was going on, and at the time, you had to buy physical issues in order to do that, and I don't have to do that anymore. So here is Bendis's Avengers, and I probably bought this just on recommendation from Eric or somebody, and I still think Romita Jr.'s art with this stuff is a little surreal. Just kind of odd seeing him draw this many characters at once. But there was some fun stuff in this series, and I bought a decent amount of it. I remember there was kind of a reality bending story with like dinosaurs showing up in present day. I remember that about it. There was a Kang thing. Oh yeah, here's Kang on this third issue. Maybe I'll just look up the first issue. Some of this more modern stuff, I'll just look up the number 1s. But yeah, Avengers number 1 from, I want to say 2011. We'll corroborate that here in a second. There's a lot of volumes of Avengers, so it'll take me a minute to find it. Did this have a moniker of any kind? It was Heroic Age, but that was just kind of the period we were in. Bear with me a minute. Yeah, 2011. There we go. Oh, wait, no, that's Avengers Academy. Weird. Is it 10? It was 10. Okay. It's also possible that I didn't buy this the week it came out, but I got some back issues and caught up. I don't think so, though. Did I actually start in 10? I thought I didn't get into that until 11. Wow. It is surreal that a comic that you bought, and I mean, yeah, it's 13 years ago now, but, in the modern age like this, might be worth 30 something bucks, a decade and a half later. Not that I am suggesting comics as an investment, because I'm not. It's too speculative. You never know what's going to happen. And I always think of, except for, like, what is the word I'm looking for? Instead of like forced scarcity stuff, where you've got 1 in 10, 1 in 20 variants that are supposedly worth $20 or more when they first come out. Artificial scarcity. That's what I was trying to say. Besides stuff like that, like, I always think of modern comics as just not really worth anything, and the only thing that drives the prices up is scalping and people like artificially raising prices on websites. But however it ends up happening, there are still books that came out when I was an adult that are actually worth dozens or hundreds of dollars. Kind of crazy. So anyway, I'm not going to look up the rest of these, but it's nice to know that that is a little more valuable than I would have expected. That's cool. I just bought that to read it. So anyway, here is Avengers number 4 from that series. I don't even remember this cover. This is 5. Thor looks really weird in Romita's art to me. There's 6, where he's fighting Hulk with a beard. Was this like right after Planet Hulk, I think? Not too long after. And I think that does it for Avengers. Now, we will have Uncanny Avengers at some point. I'm not sure why that's not immediately here. The way I have this stuff set up is I put all the... and I might not be totally consistent with this, but for the most part, I take a character or a property or a team, and I alphabetize it by that character name, and then all of the series titles are alphabetized after that. So instead of putting Uncanny X-Men in the U's or Amazing Spider-Man in the A's, you'll find Amazing Spider-Man starting the Spider-Man section, or even if, there might be something before that if there's a moniker that falls in the alphabet before AM, if that makes any sense. Unless I just start with Spider-Man, the title, but I don't think I did it that way. I think Spider-Man would fall in the alphabet wherever it would fall, underneath the umbrella, as a subsection under the umbrella of Spider-Man. Anybody curious, that's how I do that. Next up, Angel and Faith. And having said that, and actually I had Angel comics earlier, so this is filed wrong. I don't know why Angel and Faith showed up here. Maybe I should have all of that stuff in a Buffy section. I didn't even think to do that. But I don't actually do that with X-Men. So like all the X-Men would be together, but the individual characters that got their own books would not be in with the rest of the X-Men. I don't do that. So I'll show you guys this real quick, and then I'll take a bit of a break. Yeah, this stuff wound up in the wrong spot. So some of those Angel issues that we looked at last time. There's some stuff here that goes with that. So we've got... Although I thought we looked at Old Friends before. So I'm not sure what happened here. Maybe I filed some of this wrong when we looked at it before. I don't know what's going on here. Anyway. Expect some mistakes, folks. Yeah, because I thought we talked about... Did we talk about Angel and Faith? I can't remember. I think we did. But here's those. I think I'm just going to blow past the Angel. Yeah, we looked at all this. Okay, and then here's Avengers number 7 with Red Hulk. So yeah, somehow this stuff wound up in the wrong spot when I filed it back last time. I'll fix this later. It's not a big deal. Which means Uncanny Avengers is probably absolutely in the correct place. So that's good. But yeah, I'll fix all this later. Okay, so there's some more Avengers back here. I'm trying to think if I want to just get through the rest of this box and call it a night, or if I want to try to take a quick break. It's only 11:30. I was going to stream later than this tonight. Hi, Sentai Ranger Donnie. It's good to see you, man. Thomas Hill, you can pay the rent selling comics. If I absolutely had to, I could for, a couple months. Well, a few months, maybe. It just depends on how I pieced it and how well I did. And it wouldn't be rent, it would be mortgage, because I own my home. Robert, I have a few full comic book long boxes. It's enough. I barely have enough space. I hardly collect single issues anymore. And most people have that story. Most folks, unless they're just now getting into it and there's like an allure for getting to read month to month and actually have the physical issue, but I think it's few and far between now because most people either read digital or buy trade. Besides a few of those people, I think the majority of us have kind of gone that way. But it doesn't make me want to sell off all my singles. I still have kind of some... I still kind of romanticize it a little bit. It's just fun to have a big collection like this, and I love covers. That's a lot of it for me, and they're fun to decorate with. You know what? I'm gonna make the executive decision. What are we at? 10 after the hour. I'm gonna finish this box, and then I'm gonna go ahead and call that a night. And sorry about that. I wanted to go longer tonight, but maybe I can fit in an extra one of these at some point. Next week, like I said, I'm going to take off from regular videos, and I might do a couple of these just to get more of this knocked out. But yeah, I wish I could have done a little bit more tonight, but I'm fading. I'm not all of a sudden feeling great. So let me do the rest of this box. It's just going to be more Avengers stuff. So I'm going to blow through this. This is the rest of Bendis Avengers. How much of this did I buy? Oh, I went through 12. Because there's a really cool Thanos arc. And that's about when I quit. Yeah, I really liked what he did with Thanos. Is that Xavier? Here's Avengers number 8. I'm just blocking my face here. And here's 9 with the Infinity Gauntlet. I kind of want to read back through this stuff. I remember this stuff being really cool. Number 10, plus special bonus book, Heroes for Hire, number 1. I remember actually reading that. See, I've got this space over here on this side, but then it's hard to show you that because I got to do this. So, that's weird. I got to set this up better next time. Anyway, here is 11. And this is tying into, not tying into Fear Itself, but advertising Fear Itself. Which I went back and reread a little bit a couple of years ago. It holds up. Fear Itself is pretty cool. And fun fact, has a really great pinball table on a digital pinball table with the Zen Marvel tables that is included on the Arcade 1-Up digital pinball machine, which I have. And here is number 12. And this cover is a little more provocative now, kind of evokes something different now, doesn't it? After Endgame. This wouldn't have meant anything then with Iron Man wearing an Infinity Gauntlet. That's pretty crazy. Look at that. Pardon me, guys. I tried to mute that. Okay, I don't know how this got. Oh, I know what it is. Okay. So I thought I was looking at Fear itself, but this was a weird tie-in. They did this kind of stuff back then where this is Avengers Fear itself. It's like we're going to have a tie-in, but we're going to put the title in at the top where the regular title goes and make it look like it's just an event, but this is still in the regular numbering for Avengers. So I thought I stopped at 12. I actually bought 13. And then for a second here, I thought it was a different series, but it's not. That's a really great cover with Thor there. That's nice and epic. And then Hickman's Avengers, which was great, and I don't hear a lot of people talk about it anymore. But there's Avengers #1. Like I said, we'll look up some of these #1s. Let's see what that's worth. It might take me a minute to find it by the date. (2013). Okay. Look, we just jumped 3 years ahead. Okay, so nothing to write home about. 6.0 is $7. 8.0 is about $13. So that one is not as big of a deal for whatever reason than Bendis is. Sometimes it feels real arbitrary. You can't always really peg why something hit white hot and why another thing did not. Sometimes it's the first appearance of a character. Sometimes it's just a big deal that a creator is on a book. Sometimes weirdly it feels like it's about how popular it is. And you'd think that the more we print of a book, the less it would be worth. But that's also not always totally true. And retro video games have the same thing. There are plenty of Earthbounds running around, but that is still a $300 Super Nintendo game. Avengers #2 by Jonathan Hickman. And I guess I quit. I said this was great. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. I quit that for some reason. I bought more of this Avengers stuff than I realized. So I was reading some of Wade's Avengers back just as I was about to get out of comics. And I really liked the start of it. I thought the art was really cool. I don't even know how to describe the coloring in this book. I don't know, do I want to call it watercolor? It's hard to say. It was just different and kind of neat. And it complemented the kind of sketchy look of it. And I remember Hercules being real big in this. And then I can't remember what exactly it is, but there was an issue that I thought was just like weirdly pandery and off-putting, and I can't even remember why, but I just felt like Wade was preaching something real hard on the page, and I was like, I can't get excited about this anymore. It just doesn't feel like it's as much about having fun now. It's about something else, and that's not to get that's not to get into the politics of it, of whatever the agenda seemed to be. It's just that it seemed like it was about agenda and not about anything else, and I just suddenly lost interest in it, and that made me sad because I was really liking that book. And maybe that was the only place that it happened, and that's not fair, and I could have kept reading and I wouldn't have ever seen anything else like that, but I was already starting to lose interest in general with modern comics, and it kind of gave me an excuse to drop one. And so that's why I ended up doing that. So maybe it's not fair. That's just how I felt about it. Did I buy multiple covers of this? I must have. Oh, wait. Okay, I'm very confused. So these are different series. So this is the Wade and Kubert series. And then #1 now. Was this a different issue number? I'm not even sure. But anyway, this is Mike Del Mundo and Mark Waid. This is even a different series. I'm not going to look these up right now. It's probably not a big deal. And then Avengers #1.mu with a weird cartoony cover. I have no idea why I own this, but there it is. All right. And then there's #2 with Kang. Kang was a real big deal right around there, partly because of how popular Uncanny Avengers was, I think. It's kind of a neat cover. And I guess I stopped there. I guess I stopped with issue 3. Oh, no, I keep going a little bit. Because here's 3.1 with a pop art cover. That's pretty. And then I missed 4, or it's out of order here, but here is number 5. Oh my god, I'm losing everything. I just dropped my mouse. It is just a catastrophe here in Captain Loganville. Devolution Land. Bear with me, folks. So this is one of the irritations sometimes about... Sorry guys, give me a second here. About comic collecting. If you take enough out of a box, everything falls over. Okay, I'll just pull this last stack out of here and we'll roll through it real quick. Okay. I don't know where I'm going to put this now. I may have to rearrange some stuff. Okay, bear with me here, folks. I'm just hoping this whole stack doesn't drop on me here. Okay, last stack of the evening, and we'll have gotten through a whole box. A lot of comics in a box, though. I mean, I'm showing you every cover. Here is Avengers 6. Yeah, apparently I missed 4 for some reason. And number 7 with the infamous Iron Man. And I think I collected some infamous Iron Man for a while. I think I had the first 5 or 6 issues of that. Here's the first issue of Avengers Arena with Murder World, which I thought was pretty cool. I interviewed Dennis Hopeless back then when this came out. He's local, and he comes to Planet Comic-Con every year. And that was a fun book. I think I read more than that. Maybe I did it in digital. I'm not sure, because I only seem to have the one issue. And then here is a variant. So this is a specific comic shop variant that has a picture of the actual store. And I got this. You actually see me being gifted this in the Midwestern panels in our documentary from 10 years ago, from limited edition in Iowa. And so this is a Avengers Assemble #1 issue that says whosoever shops for comics, if they be worthy, comes to limited edition. So they just put your store in the bottom there. So that's kind of fun. That's kind of cute. There's another Spider-Man one that I got from that store also that's like that. And then I got some Avengers Assemble. This is number 4. I don't know if for some reason I started at 4 or if this just got out of order. I think it did. I think I have some of the others. But I honestly don't remember this book at all. Like, Bendis wrote it. I'm not sure why I was buying this. Maybe it's tied into something else I was reading at the time. I don't know. I've got amnesia about some of this. Anyway, so there's 5 with Black Widow and Hawkeye. And then here is one of the many bazillion crossovers with Guardians of the Galaxy, because that book just could not be left well enough alone. And as good as it was, all it did, Bendis' Guardians, was cross into events in every other book. And everybody got really tired of it really fast. This cover is wonderful, and I'm sure I would have bought this even if I wasn't buying Avengers Assemble. But that rocks. Isn't that gorgeous? I never get tired of Thanos in that pose. Like, ever. Anytime Thanos is doing this with the Infinity Gauntlet, I gotta have that. Like, if I went to a comic shop right now and there was an issue of something that I haven't even heard of that was sitting on the shelf and it looked like this, I would buy it. Even though I already have a cover that looks like this. That is awesome. Thanos was real smiley during that period. I missed that. Here is Avengers Assemble #8 with more glorious Thanos art. And this is Earth's Mightiest Heroes #1 from I don't know, what was this, 14, 15, maybe a little bit later. But this one is by Jason Aaron, and I've got Jason Aaron's signature on it. And I probably have Jason Aaron's signature 3, 4 times. He's local. I've talked to him several times. We're acquaintances. I'm not going to say I'm good friends with Jason Aaron or anything, but he's always been real gracious with me whenever I've wanted to talk to him. He was in the Comic Shop documentary. I've never done a one-on-one, like, sit-down interview with him. And I get the sense he doesn't love those. And so I never really wanted to pressure him with doing that. But quick plug for Jason Aaron. He's doing the new Ninja Turtles book, which I don't know if that's out already or about to come out. I hope I don't miss the boat on issue 1, because I would like to own one of those and not have to pay, $20 for it. But this is another Jason Aaron signed Earth's Mightiest Heroes. This is the free comic book day one. I don't know why I got that also. It's possible that he was at Elite because he signs at that store a lot. That's the store he goes to. And I might have been in a signing or something. I'm not sure. And this is Avengers it says No Surrender. It's legacy numbered, so it's Avengers 675, and it's got kind of a cool lenticular cover. That's pretty neat. And that's also part of that Bendis run. And then I have the first issue of Terminatrix Objective, which is another gimmicky kind of holofoilish cover. That really shows up on camera too. That's cool. Look at that, the way the light hits that. Whoever said they really like gimmicky covers would probably want one of these. There's US Agent too. That's cool. So this is from the early 90s. This is probably, I don't know, 91, 92. Let's look that up. I'm curious to see if that books at all. It probably doesn't. But you never know these days. I can't call it at this point. Terminatrix. 93. Oh, wow, it's like a $12 book. 23 if it's in really good shape. Crazy. Look at that. Mine doesn't look half bad. I would probably call that condition a 7 or even an 8. See, that's cool. It's like a lot of stuff just got valuable because it's older now. It's wild. Real quick, let me see what folks are saying in the comments here. People are talking about the new Batman show in the comments. I still haven't watched past the first 2 just with some of you guys on stream. I was planning on getting my personal watch started tonight. And of course, I'm going to go back to the first episode and watch it without talking over it. I don't know if I'll do that now. I might have to start tomorrow. But I got to get it all watched this week because we're going to review it on Sunday. And I am amassing a panel. We'll see how many folks are able to make it for that. I invited Dan Torrey because he's watched it. And so hopefully he'll be able to make it. But I'll have at least Austin and possibly Jason, depending on whether he gets to see it all. And I've invited John. So we're going to have kind of a good panel for that probably. Uncanny Avengers #1. I love this series. A lot of really cool surprises. I'll never forget the Red Skull Xavier brain thing. It's crazy. The art in that book is awesome. It's a really fun mix of characters. I want to go back and reread it. It was a great book. And I think I bought all of it. Or at least I have the majority of it. I will see if that first issue books at all. Oh, weird. These are all mixed up by variants. Wow. And see, this has me wanting to... I don't know, this is dangerous. I start looking at this and I go, maybe I should be buying more new comics because you never know in 10, 15 years what they'll be worth. But I don't have any intention on ever selling this stuff unless my family is just in horrible, dire straits. And then I would be really irresponsible and a terrible father and husband if I didn't. But check it out. Uncanny Avengers, an 8.0 is worth $52 graded. 9.2 is worth 68. What kind of shape is mine in? And let's be careful not to bend it up or something. Mine looks awesome. It looks like almost perfection. So that's at least an 8. I remember reviewing this. Like, oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at 2 when I said that. Number 1. Yeah, it's in pretty good shape, too. This is a $50 comic now. It's nuts. I'm truly shocked by that. I never thought it would be like bragging rights to be like, I own Uncanny Avengers #1. Isn't that amazing? There's a part of me that wants to hold out all the issues that are worth over a certain dollar amount and you display them somehow or put them in a cool place. I've got like a cardboard filing system thing that I found that nobody's using that I was thinking about putting some valuable comics in. But then I also don't know if I want them all together. Like, well, they're already all together in these boxes, so I don't know. Uncanny Avengers 2. It's still worth somewhere between 9 and 13. So that's cool. But that #1 is worth $50. Again, if you graded it. But yeah, that's wild. Robert, crazy how old all those big events are now. Yeah, I can't wrap my mind around some of that. That Fear itself is like 13 years old now. It's crazy. Robert, Captain, I liked Thanos before it was cool Logan. Yeah, you better believe it, sir. No, Robert, I am not the world's biggest Kang fan. It is true. Robert, missed opportunity to not call this show What's in the Box. It's funny you say that because when I did my show on, my action figures from when I was a kid, that's what the thumbnail says, What's in the Box. But yeah, I don't want to do that because I'm doing this as part of I know you were just kidding, but I'm doing this as a larger series about all of my collections. And they're not all going to be in boxes. So, yeah. Where was I? I got to get through Uncanny Avengers issues. I'm slurring my speech and about to fall asleep. Anyway, so yeah, there's 2. There's 3 with Red Skull. Again, I'm going to show you every cover. All 10,000 of them, no matter how long it takes. I mean, we'll have big breaks in between. I thought about doing these as 24-hour streams. And I'm realizing, especially right now, how bad of an idea that would have been. Speaking of Kang, and there's some really gnarly time travel stuff that happens in this book. Here is number 8. Yeah, I really want to go back and reread this stuff. I've also had an hankering to go back and reread AVX lately, which Austin is convinced will happen in the movies now. Oh, yeah, I remember the, like, Dark Wolverine and stuff. I haven't seen some of this stuff in a long, long time. He's got a knife on his finger. It's so weird how Marvel was, MCU was pushing Kang to be the next Thanos. And then a lot of people just didn't really care. And then with what happened with Majors, now he's just totally gone. Which, however you feel about the Downey Doom thing, and I don't really know how to feel about it until we see it. It's still weird. It's still really weird to me. But however you feel about that, even right now, there's no way that movie doesn't make a lot more money than it would have if Majors had still been there. So at the end of the day, that is a really cool cover. Look at that. At the end of the day, it might be the best thing that happened to them in a long time. A lot of these covers are just killer. But especially that wrecked Captain America. That is a neat cover. I got the classic Marvel heads on the background. That's cool. And then here is 18 point now. Okay, so this is when we started getting, and I think Marvel still does a lot of this crap, but we started getting into this nutso stuff where we just have these really weird compromised covers where we want so badly to have jumping on points so new readers can get into a series. So we put number one at the top, even though it's not actually a number one. But it's even worse and even weirder with something like this, because we also do the stupid gimmick of the points. So it's 18 point now, and it's number one, so that we can make a big deal out of it being a jumping on point. This is just the messiest numbers ever get. I was like, how stupid is that? It's really stupid. It's the reason nobody reads comics anymore. I'm sorry, I'm on this. I got to go on about this for just one more second and say the whole point is to not confuse people. It's like we got to put a big one on it so that new readers will not be confused and know that they can read this. And then the actual number is 18 point now. You couldn't get more confusing than this. And then you look at everything going on in this cover, and it just screams you need to have been here looking at this to know what's going on. Look at all these, like, random, not especially, relatively mainstream characters. I don't know. I might get flack for saying this, but I feel it's kind of weird even to have a book called Uncanny Avengers with Havoc on the cover and have a giant number one on a book that's not on an issue that's not a number one, trying to get new readers in. That's a mess. It's just an absolute mess. Uncanny Avengers 19. That's a pretty cool cover. And then 20, this book might spill over into the next box even. But we'll find out next time. This is our last issue to look at tonight. Here is 21. What is even going on here? Oh, everybody's just in the background fighting something gigantic. This is actually kind of an odd, confused image. I have a hard time telling even what's happening here. Is it a hand? What are they fighting? Looks like they're... Oh, okay. Is it Kang's giant hand? They're fighting a giant hand. It took me a minute to tell what even that was. Now that I understand it, it's kind of cool. Okay, guys, I got to bow out tonight. Let's see what folks are saying, and then I'm going to get going. Bob the Hun, there are a lot of reasons people don't read comics anymore. Yeah, that is absolutely true. And it's hyperbolic to say, obviously, nobody is, and the industry is totally dead or anything. But 10 years ago, it was growing a little bit. That does not seem to be happening now. And I don't know anybody that's keeping up. Also, and I never mean to make things too much about numbers on the channel, of course, but I keep talking about wanting to review comics a lot more, and it's because I just miss it. And it's fun talking about comics, and I miss having the excuse to read stuff. But we've got, like a dedicated base of comic readers that miss our talking about comics. There was a time when we drew in a lot of comic readers, and I don't know how much of it is we haven't been consistent about talking about comics on the channel, about our... I'm sorry, I'm just getting tired. I'm not sure what word I'm looking for now. But our coverage of comics, and how much of it is some of the base that we used to have might have stuck around with us for other stuff, might have jumped ship because we stopped talking about comics. But either way, our comic coverage doesn't do the numbers it used to. At the same time as other things we do are very consistent, even if we haven't done it for a while. Sometimes, especially if we haven't done it for a while. It's like, oh my God, you guys are doing that. So, I'll do a relatively popular, well-known book, from kind of recently, and it'll only get, 400 views, versus the 800 to 1,000 it would have gotten if it was new in the mid-2010s. So it makes it a little bit harder to prioritize it. And that happens with older stuff some too, but then occasionally I'll do a really major thing that everybody loves, and all of a sudden everybody comes back for it. So it just seems to me like it isn't interest in the channel on the whole has waned too much, and that doesn't seem to be the case because it seems like if I'm doing stuff people are really interested in, they'll come back out of the woodwork. We've had some stuff lately that people seem to pop back up for because they're just interested in it. So I don't know if it's a reflection on us. I suspect that's a little bit of it, but I think it's more that people have just kind of a lot of our old comic base is not as interested in it anymore. Now, are there comic channels on YouTube that still do, relatively big guns for comics? Yeah, and it's probably because they're more consistent with it. But I think specifically our audience, a lot of us did what I did and just got out, reading current. I'm just gonna take a look at a couple more comments here. Well, anyway, appreciate you guys. Chewbacca's Lover, a lot of people blame it being mostly adults instead of kids for the reason it's dying. I don't know if I would agree with that. Like comics weren't mostly for kids when it was doing something closer to booming in the mid 2010s. I think it's more that there's just not the relative mass appeal that there was at that time. And it feels a lot like a dog chasing its tail, just a lot of the same kind of gimmicks and things. Dan Schneider, I miss GNN. I was hoping you and Austin would start that up again. We did a few of them here and there. A lot of it's just we do it when we think of a great topic instead of like regularly. We have so many regular shows we're trying to do. Jason and I are trying to make the Captain Logan show on some weeks a little bit closer to GNN when there's not really a big news thing happening. Like, unless we have big news that drops tomorrow, I'm going to do the what is your advice on getting into comics, like collecting comics, starting a collection as a topic tomorrow, Wednesday. It's almost past midnight, so I can almost say tomorrow. But that'll be like a GNN. But yeah, I sometimes think about trying to do that on a weekly or every couple week basis, and it's just a matter of like, where do you fit it in, and will we come up with enough cool, thoughtful topics after doing a bazillion episodes of that? But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get going. I appreciate you guys. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll get into box 2 next time. I hope you have a good night, and I'll see you in a couple of days. I'm doing movie stuff tomorrow. Working on a superhero rewind movie. I'm always working on that on Tuesdays. And then Wednesday night, we'll have the Captain Logan show. And Thursday, we'll have a request on Batman and the Monster Men. So we'll be doing comics this week. And then Friday, Austin and I are going to do a rewind commentary on Spider-Man 2. And then hopefully on Sunday, we can get together the Batman Cape Crusader review, and then I'm taking the week after that off from regular stuff, but you might still see some fun layback streams like this. Anyway, appreciate you guys. I'm going to get going. I was Captain Logan. See you soon. Bye, folks.